Hello fight fans, welcome back to What Culture Combat, and I am Gareth Morgan, and today we're going to run through a few of the news stories that are sweeping across the MMA nation. Okay, so first story that we have today involves Dana White talking about Conor McGregor banking on Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Tony Ferguson not actually happening. So I don't know if you know this by now, but Khabib versus Ferguson has had a bit of a few ups and downs over the years. It's been attempted to be made quite a few times, and it's always fallen through various injuries. We had dehydration problems with Khabib at one point, and he collapsed and he couldn't be in the fight. They both had the kind of ups and downs. But Conor seems to be putting himself in a position where he feels like he can get into that fight coming UFC 249. The actual quote that Dana White actually went into, he told TMZ Sports, he said, "Here's the thing. Realistically, Conor believes that Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Tony Ferguson will not happen. We've tried to do this fight many times. Conor believes it won't happen. Conor wanted to do this fight at 170, referring to the Donald Cerrone fight, because he wants to turn right around and jump right in and fight Khabib if that fight doesn't happen." He said, we'll just see how all this happens. We'll see what happens after this. Conor is very focused on that rematch with Khabib. So it's clear as day, really. Conor is getting himself in this 170 kind of weight class because he doesn't have to cut weight. It's not really a tasking weight for him to make. He feels comfortable in it. If he puts down Cerrone at that weight, it opens up all these doors, obviously, for the welterweight division, the Jorge Masvidal, the Kamaru Usman fights. There's a gluttony of fights you could have at welterweight. But equally, he said literally today, I think he said in a BT interview, that he could make that lightweight on Friday. It'd be pretty tough, but he could make it. So he's putting himself in a position where at any point he can drop that hat, bang, and he can make that weight. Whether it's going to actually be against Khabib, I think he would realistically like to avenge that loss. That was a big loss in his life, in his fight career. It seriously impacted him that much that he had to stay away for another year. But he's come back driven. That loss has kind of lit a fire under his belly, and he's judging on all of his interviews, his press that he's had in the build-up to this fight, he seems like a different man. He seems composed. He seems focused, which a focused Conor McGregor is a very dangerous thing. You see that in his fight against Nate Diaz, the second one, in that fight against Eddie Alvarez, which was an absolute masterclass. If you want to watch that one back, that's probably one of the greatest performances, I'd say, from a champion in that lightweight division, without a shadow of a doubt, but maybe of all time. He completely outclassed a world-class championship fighter in Eddie Alvarez. But then equally, if that Khabib fight doesn't happen, and let's say Tony beats Khabib, you've got Tony versus Conor. That is just hook me up, put that into my veins, because that would be an incredible fight. That's a fight we haven't seen. That is just, I want to sink my teeth straight into that right now. I'm struggling to even formulate thoughts and ideas because that fight, it just gets me so excited. But then equally, Conor still needs to beat Cowboy Cerrone. That's huge. That's something that might not happen. Cerrone could tap him out. He could go the full distance. We don't know. Anything could happen this Saturday, and I'm so excited, as you can tell. Next piece of news, we have Alexander Volkanovski. He's explaining why he's not exactly sold on the Max Holloway fight being a rematch. Obviously, if you watch UFC 245, you'll see that, well, you would have seen that Volkanovski pretty much outclassed Holloway. Holloway is going to go down as maybe the best featherweight of all time. He went nearly 6 years undefeated before that fight, before that loss. And he based across the unanimous decision, he won that fight not easily, but he dominated that fight, yeah? And then him and Dana White both kind of agreed, yeah, we're going to have that rematch. That rematch is probably on the horizon soon enough. But then Volkanovski's kind of gone back on that a little bit. He's kind of gone back. He's watched the fight back. He's had a minute. He's centered. He's let the realization of, I'm the champ now. I'm the featherweight champ. I don't have to rush into anything. It's on my terms now. I'm the champ. He's watched that fight back. And his literal quote was, he told MMA Fighting this, he said, straight after, Dana White was mentioning the rematch, and even I touched base on it, but watching back the tape, the fight wasn't probably as close as I originally thought. I was definitely trying to notice everything that he done. I was struggling to give him one round. Yeah, so he's pretty much saying there that he's watched the fight back, and he was trying his best. He was trying to be open-minded, watch that fight back, because he wants that money fight, really. The money fight is the Max Holloway rematch. So he's trying to watch that fight and pick out moments where he thought, yeah, he was back in there. He probably deserves a rematch, but he couldn't find any. He couldn't even give him a round, which says a lot. That was a dominant fight. So it comes down to the fact that there are other fighters out there right now that Volkanovski believes are probably more likely to be the contender right now, more deserving of that contendership. You've got the Korean Zombie, who's going on a hell of a streak. He destroyed Frankie Edgar recently. And then you got Zabit. Zabit's just doing incredibly well. And these are two fights that he ranks probably higher than Max Holloway right now. So if Holloway wants to get that contendership, get that shot again, he's going to have to overcome one of these two. So they would both be incredible fights. I'd be so excited to see them. Would you? Let me know what kind of fight you'd want to see Max Holloway take on before he takes on Volkanovski. But yeah, that one of those fights would have to happen, I think, realistically, to kind of clarify Holloway as the genuine champion. So yeah, I agree with you, Volkanovski, but Holloway could as well go to lightweight. That could happen. He could jump up. He's teased it in the past. Obviously, he lost to Poirier recently, but he's teased that. He could end up going back up to lightweight. He could maybe even challenge the likes of McGregor, the likes of Ferguson, the likes of Gaethje. I'd love to see that fight, the Gaethje-Holloway fight. That would just be insane. I'd love that. Please give me that for Christmas. I mean, I know it's a while away, but I'd like that. Right, next fight. Our last story of the day involves the current welterweight champion, in case you forgot, because I think everyone seems to think that Jorge Masvidal is the top guy in that division. But Kamaru Usman has come out and clarified his context behind saying who. If you don't know what I'm on about, there was a point where after Kamaru Usman fought Colby Covington at UFC 245, that fabled event again, he was asked straight after the fight, who do you think is your next viable contender? Do you think it's Jorge Masvidal, the number one name in everyone's list? But then he kind of turned around and went, who? And Jorge Masvidal is a very proud dude. He took this quite badly. He thinks very highly of himself. And he actually cut together a video highlighting all the moments where Kamaru Usman in the past had actually acknowledged him. So he knew exactly who he was. But then Kamaru Usman has come out. He's clarified his comments. He wasn't saying that he didn't know who Masvidal is. He obviously knows exactly who it is. But he said, he told MMA Fighting, he says, he's misunderstanding me. There we go. There's clarification. End of story. No? You want more? Okay. He said, there are guys that are more deserving of a title shot. Jorge Masvidal doesn't have a win over anyone in the top 6. I've beaten 5 of the top 6 guys in the division. That's why I said it. So he's clarifying that he said who, because he was kind of shocked that his name has been brought into the list. He was like, who? Him? What? Like, he doesn't deserve it. He's not beating anybody in that top tier of the rankings. Sure, he's beat Darren Till, he's beat Ben Askren, he's beat Nate Diaz in that BMF title. Contentious, obviously, but yeah, you can have at it in the comment section about that one. But yeah, he's actually not. He's not proving it against anybody in those top rankings. He's put his money where his mouth is, and he's got the belt right now. He's beaten many a guy. He's beaten Woodley, he's beaten Covington, he's beaten these guys who are all credible challengers. So he has a bit of a point. He even went as far as to say in this interview that if GSP, Georges St. Pierre, was to come back like tomorrow, he'd be in more contention, or he'd be more likely to challenge for the belt than what Masvidal would be. Obviously, I think he's just trying to dangle yet another super fight. That buzzword pops up again in this video. But yeah, he just wants to make money, and obviously he feels like that fight would be the big fight. It'd be a great fight. I'd be very much interested in watching that fight. But right now, based on streaks and based on everything else, I think Masvidal probably is deserving of a title shot. I would kind of challenge these comments a little bit. But maybe he does. Maybe he needs to take on somebody else first. Maybe he needs to take on a Covington. Maybe he needs to take on a Woodley. Somebody like that, just to kind of give him that one last little notch where he's like, yeah, you know what? I have beaten somebody in the top half of the rankings. I deserve that shot. And that is our MMA roundup of the day. How do you feel about Conor McGregor potentially trying to get himself in a position where he can jump in if Khabib or Ferguson drop out of that UFC 249 fight? How do you feel about Usman saying that Masvidal is not a credible challenger at this point? Do you feel like he is just trying to duck away from Gamebred, one of the top names in UFC right now? Let us all know about it in the comment section below. I've been Gareth Morgan from What Culture Combat, and I will see you soon.